What's up, homies? What's up, homies? What's up, homies? Welcome to the Knowledgeable Homeowner Podcast. We pick the brains of industry pros to unlock the trade secrets of homeownership. Our mission is simple: to turn everyday people into knowledgeable homeowners. What's up, homies? I'm Sturdy Joe, and this is the Knowledgeable Homeowner Podcast. Today we're talking permits. I'm here with Mitch Brendle, the owner of Integrity Expediting. I can't think of anybody better to talk permits with than an expediter. So what's up, Mitch? How are you today?
I am doing great today.
Thank you so much for coming on. In my world, home inspections, energy ratings, and just regular people, permits, it kind of, a little bit of animosity, right? A lot of negativity. So I feel like there's so many questions I can get into with permits. But one of the things I want to do is I just want to know your background and your company's background.
Sure. Yeah, it's a wild world when it comes to permits, but I know we'll get into that in a little bit. So really grateful to be here. Appreciate the opportunity to get to share with you, talk with you, and get into the details of permits and the history. So a little bit about me. I have been on a self-employment leadership journey for about the last 12 years or so. Integrity Expediting has been around for 6 years, but I'll give you the lead up into that. Personally, I'm really passionate and interested in helping people develop. I want to help people grow and develop and realize their potential. When I was really young, I was given chances, and I want to provide those same opportunities for people to give them a chance to find what they're good at and explode do phenomenal. Yeah. And I've been able to do that in really two different environments, but it's similar the way it's applied. So I have a background in business development and also technology and computer implementation into a business where I was setting up phone systems and how it syncs with the email and developing like CRM. I was brought in as a business partner to develop kind of the background of the functionality of this company. We ran that for a few years. Went out on my own doing some consulting, private consulting for an insurance company, setting up their back office, and moved back to New York about 6 years ago. And that's when a friend of mine who's a process server introduced me to the idea of expediting. And I looked at what he was doing, and he basically said, look, I want to show you a little bit of this, but I want you to start your own business. And I could dive into the details of that if you want, and how that all came about, but I'm really grateful for him. And so I looked at somebody doing a business with very limited technology, a flip phone and a notepad, and I saw great opportunity to scale in a way that I could build something that will multiply, where I can hire more. By
taking your experience with creating good systems. So that's funny because in home inspections, I started home inspections about 7 years ago. And when I got into it, 90% of the business was guys taking point and click pictures, going home and report writing. Now today, we do 90% of it on my phone. And I actually remember, my brother's a tech guy. My brother's a big tech guy. We go to the gym together, and he's like, I don't get why you don't bring a tablet on site and just do your report on site. And I was like, that's so dumb. Nobody's ever going to do that. And literally like 18 months later, I bought the Surface because I was like, dude, I want to use a tablet on site. And he's like, seriously, you're not even going to at least thank me for that? But it's funny to see in my business too, like there's a huge need for updating and pushing things forward. And so home inspections did that, and now I do the energy rating work too. Right. The code world, a lot of it needs to be brought up to speed. So so you saw an opportunity to grow there.
A lot of opportunities. So
and now you guys got a full-time gig here.
Yeah, we're a team of 6 currently, but looking to expand. So we've moved up in office space 3 times, fortunately, since we started. We just needed more room. Yeah. And we're currently managing over 170 building permit projects between at least 2 different towns. Brookhaven and Islip is where we really are focused. Yeah. And our team, my team is amazing. They're amazing. I have an amazing team.
It seems like you guys have a good energy, and which I feel like in your world there's a lot of stress. The clients are in a tough position because most of the time when people reach out to you, it's because there's a permit problem. Right. So it's a stressful environment for them. So you need people who are going to be a little empathetic.
Correct.
And let them know, like, listen, we got you. This is going to work out.
Yeah, we're part-time counselors, therapists. Yeah. Not licensed in that at all, but there's a lot of talking through this, like, well, why is this happening? And people are dealing with major issues. A large percentage of our clients are dealing with town violations. That means they either got caught doing something they weren't supposed to, or they bought a house and had no idea there was an open permit for a finished basement and that apartment wasn't legal.
That's an awesome point. I want to ask that right now.
Cool.
I deal with it all the time.
Yeah.
A homeowner comes to a house, there's like you said, a basement apartment, a shed or something, and there's a lot of animosity. It's always like the buyer's dad where they'll ask me, they're like, is that on the C of O? It's like, I don't know. Hold on, let me ask the town really quick. Let me get a foil in my head.
Yeah.
I can typically tell if something's not permitted because it looks like I did it on a weekend.
Sure.
But what are some risks of buying a house without permits? Like, what are some things people can run into?
So primarily, the reasons the code exists is for life and safety. Mm-hmm. The reason why these building codes have to, plans have to be reviewed and approved according to the codes is so that way the people in the house can be safe. Like, let's take a basement, for example. You and I both know if I walk into a basement and there's only one staircase in and that's the only way out, there's no way it's legal. Yeah. There's no way of escape. What if you have a fire at the top of that staircase and you're down in the basement hanging out, or your kids are down in the basement hanging out? And I know we're getting kind of deep into it, but that's the reality of it.
Yeah, and a lot of these house fires are started by space heaters. And a lot of space heaters are plugged into extension cords, and those are tenant situations. And, a lot of times it's tenant situations that do it. So
it can go bad in so many ways. And so, number one, it's life and safety, why you want to have the proper egress window in place, the proper fire separation for this apartment. You want to protect your investment. Your home is your biggest investment you're purchasing here, so you want to make sure it's safe and it's structurally sound. Secondly, just the financial pitfalls of buying something that is not legal can snowball into, we're not talking hundreds of dollars, we're not even talking thousands, it could be tens of thousands of dollars to legalize something that exists. Mm-hmm. Just because it's there doesn't mean it can be. Mm-hmm. Or if you want to keep it, you have to go through major work. Like, I'm talking about a whole brand new septic system, dig up your entire property and put a $30,000 septic system in there in order to legalize that additional bedroom, or the attic was turned into 2 bedrooms, or the basement has an apartment in it.
And that's where things get kind of crazy with permits, is when the can of worms is opened up. When we invite the town in for a pool or a solar or whatever, it is something that maybe we didn't expect to be huge once they start looking around. So, all right, so let's run it back just because I want to keep it a little simple. No, this is awesome. I just want to... Because we understand what we're talking about.
Right.
But when you say something's not legal, what, like, to us, I understand what that means, but like,
great question.
To a homeowner, when something's not legal, the police are going to come arrest them. So what does legality mean in a house? What is like a back deck that's not legal? What does that actually mean?
So I think defining what a certificate of occupancy is would help solve that.
Okay, cool. So what's a C of O?
A certificate of occupancy is, if you break it down, it means this structure is certified to be occupied. It means that it has gone through the local jurisdiction, that's your town. They have reviewed that structure for New York State Building Code compliance. So New York State writes the code, the local towns are enforcing it and making sure that all the structures meet that code. So a CO, or a certificate of compliance, means that this structure meets code. It's safe, according to what the
code says. Okay. Yeah.
So if a structure has a CO, it is in terms legal. Now, when we say something's illegal, an illegal finished basement, deck, things like that, it has either never had a permit, or it had a permit, but they never finished the process to get the final certificate of occupancy.
So that's why people say that there's an open permit or an open CO, is when they started the process and they never closed it out. They never did their finish. And that's, in real estate, I feel like that's when the can of worms is open, because the mortgage companies, the title companies, they want a closed permit.
Correct.
So that's when they could spend thousands of dollars finishing it. So open permits in real estate, we definitely see a lot more problems. So the C of O, the certificate of occupancy, it actually has a little bit of details about the house. Like, it'll say this is a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom structure with a 2nd-story deck, right?
Sometimes.
So, okay.
More recent COs in like the 2000s that have been issued recently include a lot more information about a house. Mm-hmm. You might find a CO from a house in the 70s or in the 60s rather, and it just says 2-story frame dwelling. And you're like,
yeah, I see a lot of 2-story frame dwelling. Yeah,
what does that mean? On that. So then we have to dig a little deeper. Okay, does the town have a survey on file? They might, or they might not.
Oh, okay.
Then we can dig into the tax records Can we get an old picture? What was the tax assessor's original layout? Because they have their own little, kind of like you would get on an appraisal.
So the town, look, because I'm in Islip. We do a lot with the town of Islip, the town of Brookhaven, but a lot of the towns, as different as they are, they all operate similarly. Every town has a file with your property address on it, with some sort of information.
Right.
Like I know I've done my FOIL. I know we have our survey, like an updated-ish survey, and I've seen my certificate of ordinance, but I think that's all they really have. So yeah,
you said a FOIL. That's just to define that. It's a Freedom of Information law. By New York State, you're allowed to request copies of these records. It's public access to this information. And little piece for the town of Islip, if you're the homeowner, you can go right down to the town and get it the same day. If you're not, then we have to submit a request, and it takes them a week or two to fulfill the request, and they give you copies of whatever's in the file.
If I'm looking at a property, can I get a FOIL of that property?
Definitely.
So I don't have to be the homeowner to request a FOIL?
No, it's Freedom of Information, so anybody can request that. It might take a week or two to be fulfilled, and you get the documents, but that's something that a lot of our friends in the real estate space, brokers, agents who are looking at homes, and they want to do the right thing. They want to help their clients be educated and informed about this house, will do that research ahead of time. So that way they know what they're walking into.
Yeah, absolutely. So pretty much when something's not legal, it's that whatever the existing conditions of that property is today doesn't match whatever the town has on record.
Correct.
Now, that's where it can get super vast because some things that aren't legalized today can simply be legalized. Other things will never be legalized, like 6 bedrooms in a basement is never ever going to be legalized. And I know villages are getting stricter. I think Babylon did something with basements, and so the rules are always changing. So again, moving backwards as an expediter, very simply put, in relationship to homeowners, what does an expediter do?
So I break it down into 3 stages. What we do as an expediting company, and I speak for my company, we're not the only business that provides this service.
Everybody does a little different, but how you operate.
How we operate, we have 3 main emphases, 3 main focuses that we really look to implement when we're dealing with a homeowner. So we look at informing, educating, and facilitating. And I'll break that down. So we inform of what can and can't be. That's just dealing with the codes. Okay, your basement you have a 5-foot high ceiling in your basement. You can't have that finished as an apartment or as a recreational space. So what can you and can't you do dealing with the codes and the facts, the straight black and white of it. Then we educate. Well, why? What's the purpose of these codes? What does the process look like? What does it take to get me from where I'm at right now with either looking to buy a house that has missing COs, or I own a house and I built a bunch of stuff that needs to be legalized, or whatever the situation you might be, and how do we get through that process? And then what we actually do is facilitate it for you. I don't just tell you what to do. Our team is specifically trained on every step of the process to take you through from how to fill out the very first application all the way until we make it through to get the final CO. So that's where an expediting company, where we would be able to help, is we've been through the process hundreds of times. Like I said, we're currently working on 170 projects, but I have a binder of every single CO we've ever had issued, and you could just flip through it, all types of projects from a simple little deck to a full house on a vacant lot. So having gone through the process so many times, we can foresee the obstacles that are going to come up and help you prepare and budget appropriately. We want to manage the expectations of, you come to me and say, hey, I want to put an apartment upstairs and I want to put an apartment in the basement and I want to live in the middle. I said, sorry, you can't do that.
We're not getting permits on that.
We can't. It just cannot be done. Well, what do you mean? You're an expediter. You filed permits. I know, but I can't tell the town to do something.
They're going to say no. They're going to. So I feel like that's very important. So my experience with expediters, and because a lot of the architects deal with submitting to plans, submitting to the towns too, is you have to understand the process too. You have to have a relationship with the town because they see you all the time. And you understand the process, so you save a lot of headaches. Because I see doing the energy rating work now. So home inspections is before they own the house. The energy code testing stuff is when they're in the house. I have 2 very different experiences. I get a lot of homeowners that seem like they're trying to handle it themselves, and that's where they're costing themselves time and money. So realistically, if they dealing with an expediter, if anybody's doing a project, big or small, there's value that an expediter brings to the table?
Yes. I mean, I tell people all the time, you can do this on your own if you have the time. And that's the real key, is being able to go, present your application, find out it doesn't have everything that needs to be there, come back, compile some more things, maybe hire a drafter to do some plans. You submit them, find out they're not up to the requirements that the town has, then you get it kicked back again.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, a revision of an application could take 8 weeks.
Yeah.
So you're submitting something thinking, oh, I got it. But that has to pass through 5 more layers to get all these approvals to come back to you and say, okay, here's your building permit to start legalizing this. So we've seen the process start to finish so many times. We're able to help navigate through it and lay it out right in the very beginning. Or if a homeowner gets stuck, like, hey, the town's asking me for all this stuff. I said, okay, well, let's see what you have, see what they're asking for, and connect all the dots and come in and help out.
So, like, the way I put it when I'm dealing with homeowners is this process, dealing with the town, submitting plans, C of O stuff, it's almost always painful. It's almost always painful. And like I said, I'll get homeowners who are trying to handle it. They call me in a panic because I didn't know I needed a manual J and it's holding the project up and blah, blah. It's always bad.
Yeah.
So your value is like you guys just are going to take the punches for them. Yeah. Like there's no avoiding the length of time. There's things you can do to be more efficient. Absolutely. But like we get kickbacks from the town all the time. I got one recently where we did our manuals, it was plain English, we said exactly what it's going to be, and they misread it. Mm-hmm. And they were like, this system isn't right. And I'm like,
no.
It is, right?
I
know, I did. I was like, highlighted it. And like, listen, they're looking at a bunch of different things. They don't know energy code. They're not energy code pros. Right, they're looking at a bunch of stuff. But so that's like my value is like, it takes the pain out of it. It's a real it's like a concierge. Yep. It really is, because there's never been an easy permit application.
There's always something that'll come up. I'll give you, if I can give it a quick example.
Absolutely, man.
Had a client, bought a house, had an open expired permit for some work on the house. I said, all right, cool. You could renew that and get it inspected and get it closed out. But I asked them a very important question. I says, okay, is there any other work that was done on this house aside from that permit? Well, I don't know. This permit's from, the 80s.
Oh, wow.
Okay. They went and renewed it. Meanwhile, I was doing my research in the background, and I says, look, here's what's going to come up. You have converted basement to living space. You have an addition on the back of the house, which wasn't even included in the old permit.
35 years of living there. It's 3 owners.
And I think they had a deck and maybe a pool.
Added central air, yeah.
This happens all the time. So we're reviewing these FOILs, the Freedom of Information records that we get from the town, and we're comparing it to the old permit. And we're like, look, this is the last record the town ever saw. So that's what they expect your house to look like. So they renewed the permit. And I said, look, we should combine this and deal with all the new stuff now to save you time. Yeah. They said, no, I'm just going to go ahead and renew the permit myself. I'll go online or I'll go to the counter, I'll pay the fee and renew it. And they called me back. I asked them, hey, how'd it go with the renewal? Well, the inspector came out and said, I need a permit for this, and this.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't like to be in the position where I never say like, oh, I told you so, because it's just rude.
Of course.
But the reality is I try to tell people as much as I can ahead of time so that way they can know what to expect.
Yeah.
And when the time comes, they're like, oh, yeah, you warned me about that.
Yeah.
And okay, now we have to deal with it. There's no way around it.
Yeah.
So we can save a lot of time by just knowing what's going to happen. Let's just deal with it all in one shot.
Where is a very common point in either a homeowner's life or a very common reoccurring situation where they do run into these permit issues? Is it when they go to sell a house? And obviously if they're going to go do some work, but is there like a reoccurring situation that maybe if a homeowner knows that this is coming up, like they should start having these conversations with expeditors?
There's 4 different scenarios that somebody could find themselves in that would require dealing with permits.
Yeah.
Number 1, you're facing a real estate transaction. So if you are looking to sell your house and you've made improvements, or you are buying a house and want to know what's going on there, the conversation of permits is going to come up. If you are facing town violations, meaning you live in your home, you started making improvement, or maybe you bought it with some improvements and a neighbor called and complained and the town comes and starts looking into it, when you deal with town violations, you're going to be faced with these permit issues. The third way is if you want to make an improvement. Maybe you want to build out your backyard and put a barbecue back there, like a nice brick barbecue with a pergola roof over. You want to put a swimming pool in. Permits is going to be part of that. And the fourth thing, which is the least amount of occurrence, which I'm thankful for, but it can happen to anybody, is a catastrophe. And that's a fire or a flood that would cause officials from the fire department, from the police department, and from the town to come into your home. And I have dealt with, and I'm currently dealing with some homeowners who have had fire damage. We're repairing the fire damage, but in the process, the town says, oh, and you have a deck that's illegal,
so
and you have a finished basement
because with the
that's
fire,
illegal.
they pull the C of O. So they have to do a final walkthrough to make sure the fire damage is fixed anyway. So now, so you're the town's getting invited in,
you have to.
And they're looking around.
Exactly.
So if anything doesn't match that C of O, if anything is that legality thing we talked about, that's when it's going to come up.
And you never know when it might happen to you.
Yeah.
So that's where it's get a clean slate. It's never going to be easier tomorrow.
Yeah, of course.
It's always going to be easier now.
Yeah.
Because things, like you said, are getting more complicated. Technology is improving, so they're able to find more and more reasons to scrutinize on a property, to where things used to be, it's a 2-story frame dwelling.
Discretion.
Now it's like, well, no, this thing says it was 12.5, and your survey says it's 13.1. So you made some sort, now we're fighting about inches.
Yeah.
Because technology has improved so much.
So they can be more scrutinizing.
You got to cover yourself in these houses, get everything legal, get it all said and done, because then you don't have anything to worry about. Nobody's coming after you. Your house is safe. You can live in it, enjoy it in peace.
Yeah. So I just feel like because there's so much animosity behind the permit process. We want to do things without calling the town in. But maybe culturally, growing up, we didn't do things, bringing the town in to look at the house. What do they want? They're just going to raise my taxes. So that was definitely my mindset for a long time. Yeah. Getting involved with the energy code stuff, I kind of realized, if you have nothing to hide, everything is fine.
Oh, it's such a...
Right?
Let's just talk lifestyle right now.
I guess it's really
a better way to live.
Yeah, if you have nothing to hide, then you're good to go. It's if you have an illegal apartment, then that's when things are going to get wonky. But.
Okay, you're making money, but if the hammer ever drops, the amount that they're going to be charging you and the nightmare that they're going to be putting you through to make that stuff legal is going to... I mean, I've had people, their lives are ruined because... they got caught with an illegal apartment, and the amount that they had to spend in violations and fines to fix what they already had was more than it would have cost them if they just set it up the right way from the beginning. And okay, yes, you're paying more taxes, but I'm the kind of guy that likes to sleep at night.
Yeah.
And I'm the kind of guy that doesn't want... I mean, my company is Integrity Expediting.
Yeah,
we're all out in the open.
Doing the right thing,
Super transparent, super honest. And that, honestly, that has made us not a great fit for some people. If I could touch on this point, don't try to hide anything from the town.
Yeah.
If you want to file a permit for an addition or a swimming pool, but you also have a finished basement, guess what? If they ever put an egress window in, or if the town inspector comes to the property, basically what I'm saying is either on the survey or at the site inspection, things will come up.
Yeah.
It's just...
And these guys do this every day. They have an eye for it too. So they're looking for things that they can kind of call out and make sure.
Right.
I'm sure there's some liability on their part too.
Absolutely.
If they go to a property and they missed an illegal apartment and there is they have a job that they have to have secured too. So.
And with that, I just say that's why we may not be a great fit for everybody because we have a registration with the town of Brookhaven, which allows us to operate in this capacity. And our responsibility, our responsibility is to the homeowner to provide them a phenomenal service, but we also have the responsibility of maintaining truthful and honest applications. Because if I have to risk my registration by trying to hide something, it's not going to work. We're not going to be a good fit. And people have called us knowing that's who we are. We're the company that's going to tell you everything. thing.
Yeah.
And if you're afraid of losing a real estate deal because, the expediter's going to tell them about all this stuff, don't call me.
Don't call it. Yeah.
Don't call me. It's okay, because I'm going to dig down deep, because your client's future is on the line. My conscience is on the line.
Yeah.
There's too much.
Yeah.
Why? It's not worth keeping things hidden.
I think that's a good perspective with legality and permitting in general, is like if you're going to take the risk of doing it the wrong way, then you got to kind of own that. But if we're going to do it the right way, you kind of got to be all in on it. Just do it the right way and avoid so many problems. Yeah.
Can be hard financially.
So have you been involved with like real estate transactions with a house being sold and there being permitting issues? So, thinking about different ways to add value. I have a big real estate network, is dealing with doing a background search on a house. Is that something like a listing agent could get into? Is that something that, like, if I was a listing agent and I was trying to add value to, like, trying to win a listing.
Absolutely.
Is that something, that could be brought up or something they could do?
Yeah. So I very often I'm reviewing title reports, which that document comes to the table after everybody's in contract. That's like way into the process. And people are getting surprised by what comes up in a title report. Where I've really been encouraging, hey, let's look at this house right from the beginning. I would encourage even pre-listing inspections. I know home inspectors can offer pre-listing inspections.
This market slowed that down because there's no reason to fix anything.
Right now,
but at the beginning we did them all the time.
Right, and that will help the seller get into a place where they
So we do pre-listing inspections still constantly on estate sales. The kids are selling their parents' house, parents passed away. They call me because they're like, listen, we haven't been in there in years. So maybe for somebody doing an estate sale, selling parents' or grandparents' houses, doing some kind of... Now, is there a service to that? Like you was doing like background search and stuff like that?
Yeah, so we actually have on our website 3 different tiers of research. We have a bronze, silver, gold level. Yeah. One of the bronze is basically we're going to pull the records, interpret it, and give you a report and let you know what's going on as far as paperwork is concerned. That's going to take some time at the minimal level. Silver, we'll do it 24 hours. Gold level, I'm going to actually do a site visit as well, walk through the house, take pictures, develop a whole report for you in terms of what's legal and what's not. Yeah. We don't get into, if I see something that's not structurally appropriate, like you have a second story deck and it's sitting on a 4-inch concrete block, I'm going to tell you that's not okay.
That's not safe. Yeah. For life and safety.
It won't pass building code. When a building inspector from the town
So that's where
the
field inspection comes through, because you can go above and beyond.
Right.
So, all right. So with that kind of background information, now the thing that comes to mind is like, soft inquiry, hard inquiry. Is there any risk to doing that kind of background research? Is the town going to get like a flag, like we were looking at 225 Main, like what's going on? So there's nothing like that.
The risk is you finding out how much or how little you're going to have to do or credit the buyer. Yeah. So as far as the town is concerned, they keep record of the inquiries.
Not like if we do our background search,
right? It's
the
not
town inspector's going to be knocking
report
on the door like, "Hey, listen, we actually forgot to check your file too." So,
right?
Yeah, this is a soft inquiry.
Yeah,
this ain't going to hit your credit
report.
Yeah, that's all I can think about.
So
because
exactly.
as
it's scary.
But that's how I think. You know what I mean? Like coming up, like I don't want them coming over here. I don't want them knocking on the door.
Exactly.
And like dealing with a lot of the architects deal with the town stuff too. So I have these conversations. And they're like, we'll just take care of it. Like it's just a part of the process. Unless you're doing something really, really wrong, it's going to be fine. So
right. Researching properties, we've researched thousands of properties over the years, and we haven't seen it result in, which I'm sure, I'm not an attorney, but I'm sure there's something in the freedom of information
where they
law
can't
protects the individual from the jurisdiction where they're searching for those records.
Yeah, I'm sure you're
right. I'll give you an example. I had a homeowner who was looking to sell, and there was an open expired permit for something on the house. And I'm leaving out some details just for,
of course,
protection and all that. Open expired permit with something on the house. I looked at it and I said, look, I think we can get this done for about $6,000. And the buyer was presenting them with a $25,000 discount request, saying, give me $25,000 off the price of the house and we'll move forward. That was their negotiation. I said, and this is pre-COVID this time, I said, do you have 3 months and $6,000? I think we'll be out of this thing. Because I had already looked over the property. I looked it up, down, left, right, visited the house, knew what was going on there, knew what the town was going to come up with. I said, about $6,000, I think we'll get out of this. So we started the process, we renewed the permit, we did the inspections, we got all this stuff done. I think he ended up spending like $5,800, and they were able to close on the house with all COs, no money in escrow. So that's a situation where this guy got to walk away with $20,000 extra in his pocket because there was some research done for something that was potentially terrifying. And in his situation, it worked out. I've had other ones where it's like, look, you've got a lot of issues. Yeah. But at least we can.
That's the culmination of doing it illegal for how many years? Yeah, right. That's what they're dealing with there. They pushed it off for so long.
Right.
All right, cool.
So we give you the full picture, though, of what's going on so that we know what to expect. Yeah. And a lot of times, and it's interesting because I'll help people on both sides. I'll help buyers, and they're looking at a house with an open expired permit. And I would encourage them to get as much money as you can, because who knows what that could snowball into.
Well, I've heard of issues where, like, someone will be doing a flip, and maybe someone with less integrity is doing a flip, and
they don't call me anymore.
The permit thing comes up in negotiations, and they'll tell the buyer, like, listen, we didn't close out the permit, we'll leave $2,000 in escrow for you, close it out, and then it could be $20,000. Who knows what it's going to finish? So that's definitely. I mean, I hope most real estate agents are educated enough to be like, that sounds like such a. But I've heard that happen before. Yeah. But all right, so open permits. Yeah. It's a very common thing. Yeah. I have two questions with that.
Sure.
Why don't people close out their permits? And what is the risk to never close? Like, obviously, I know things can snowball, but like, if you just choose to never close out your permit, like, when are you going to run into the problem? Like, you can live with an open permit. These people have since the 80s, right? So why don't they? And what's the problem?
We're just going to crush a myth right off the bat there, because I've heard people don't like to close permits because they don't want to pay more taxes. But as much as the town departments don't typically talk with each other, they still do. So chances are, the minute you have a permit issued, some way or another fashion, the tax assessor's office is going to find out that the permit was issued and inspections were done, and they're going to charge you the taxes for it.
Okay, so closing it out doesn't affect the taxes. Yeah, it's already happening anyway.
They're not going to wait until you get your CO to start charging you taxes.
Because then nobody would close out their permits.
Exactly. If they know you have it, they're getting their tax dollars, right? So that's a myth. Just leave it be. Have people gotten away with a finished basement illegally without paying taxes on it? Yeah, but now we're back to the other risks.
Yeah, exactly. Right? That's because they're flying totally under the radar.
Yeah, so two ways that I've seen majorly why people don't close out permits is, number one, things were not communicated clearly. Okay. Maybe an agency pulled the permit and didn't educate the homeowner properly that, hey, after we finish this work and we go on our way and you write us our final check for this construction or this pool or whatever it might be, you have more to do. You have a responsibility to submit additional documentation to the town. I've run into so many situations where homeowners are like, I don't know, the contractor came in, they gave me a proposal, they filed a permit, they signed it off, I wrote them a check, and I have this beautiful addition on my home. But it stopped there. Yeah. And it's innocent.
But that's a whole other separate issue with the varying degrees of skill in the construction industry and the responsibility of a general contractor and homeowners not knowing that difference. Like, everybody's Bob the Builder and so that's a totally different story.
So important thing to know is when the construction is completed, you're not done with the CO process. Yeah. Right? The second way we've seen these open permits just kind of stay in limbo and float out there is you go to the last step and you submit your final documentation to the town, and something new is on the property or something different is on the property, or it wasn't built the way you said it was going to be built. And it just, great, how do we fix that?
And it just goes to the back
money.
Burner. Yeah.
Fine, we're not dealing with that now. I'll deal with it when I go to sell.
Yeah.
Dealing with it when you go to sell could take 8 months.
It's extra risk. Yeah.
And risk. And, so there's a lot to it when you wait. So those are I'd say the two situations where we...
Yeah, because open permit is like, we hear it all the time, and it's always like, why are there so many open permits? Like, why is it such a thing? So it makes perfect sense. There's multiple scenarios that can come up. I have like one more thing I want to touch on. And then I think we're running out of time.
Yeah,
so we'll wrap,
this is great.
I've gotten so much out of this. And I feel like it's, again, there's so much confusion with the permit process. Yeah. There's so many different questions. We could probably talk about it forever. But you brought up taxes and taxes going up. Now, you're not a tax accountant, so this isn't your area of expertise. But like, is there information that a homeowner could get to expect, how much are my taxes going to go up? Is there somebody that is a professional they can talk to in this process? Because, I mean, if I have a 1,000 square foot house and I want to build a 5,000 square foot house, I know my taxes are going to go up, but is there a way for them to understand? I actually recently had a client talking about adding central air or not. And part of the consideration was my taxes are going to go up if I add central air. Is there information they can get for that?
I wish.
Yeah.
I've been trying, and I'm encouraged by this question to try even more. So if any of my council member friends out there or tax assessor friends out there are watching this video, please help me out, because I'm going to help you out, help the people.
Yeah, everybody benefits from that.
I've asked the assessor's office, and there's really no written formula that they could provide for me, either because they don't disclose that information or there really isn't a formula. So I don't know.
The questions coming to mind now is I feel like I need to get somebody who understands the tax bill levy percentage. That might be another good episode.
That's a good episode.
Because the way we calculate our taxes are very different. All right, so that's not a straight answer for that. I expect it to go up, but we are all left and out.
The basic answer is every square foot of improvement you make on your home will be impacting your taxes.
Okay, yeah.
That's the basic of it. I've seen, just in experience, I've seen people send me their new bills. Some have gone up hundreds of dollars. Some have gone up thousands. People added an entire addition.
Yeah.
I think maybe it was like a $2,300 increase. I can't quote the numbers, but it was somewhere in that range.
Figures,
But they added a whole nother, 25% to their home, major addition with an apartment.
Yeah.
So they made a major addition, and it went up in terms of thousands. But I've also seen people, and I don't always get these, but sometimes people text me, "Hey, I got my letter. We're assessing your property. You added this, a couple $100."
Okay.
It's
so it's not always like the end of the world. Yeah.
Right.
We already pay enough in taxes.
Exactly, and they're going up every year.
Yeah,
anyway.
exactly. It's unbelievable. All right, cool, man. Thank you so much.
Hey,
I feel
thank you for having me. I know there's a lot of information to this. Be informed. Know what you're getting yourself into. Structurally and legally. Paperwork-wise.
That's some great advice, man. So,
thank you.
Do you want to plug your Instagram? I know you guys are pretty active on Instagram.
Yeah, so you can check us out on social media. It's at Integrity Expediting for everything. TikTok, Instagram. Instagram's probably the most active right now.
And you guys drop some knowledge on there too.
Yeah, so you'll find
get more value out of that.
A lot of videos on there. I'm going to be doing some more longer form content soon too. We have a YouTube channel. I have a couple educational videos on there, but we're going to be... I have a list about 2 pages long with some video ideas that I want to help educate and inform people. I'm an educator. I'm a trainer.
Yeah.
that's what I love to do. So
that was one of the reasons I actually saw you on... you do lives with Peter Grosso.
Yeah.
Peter Grosso stand. He's a big bench press guy. So I've admitted my love to him, but he knows,
beautiful.
So it's okay.
Yeah, I appreciate him so much.
Yeah, I saw you jump on a live. I was like, this guy's got a great information, and you speak well. So I was like, this is a no-brainer.
Yeah, so we talked, and he said, I have questions I'm going to call you, but I'm just going to call you on Instagram instead, and we'll just go live and answer the questions right on the spot.
And that led to this.
This is exactly
that's it, man.
What we do. So happy to be here, happy to help answer questions, anything that comes up, permit, CO related.
Awesome,
we're here for you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
All right, that's a wrap.